All right. Good morning, everybody. Let's give it a few minutes here. Sorry for the delay. We are waiting for Vanessa, and it looks like a couple of little glitches here. And there we go. We've got Vanessa.
So, hi.
Hi, Vanessa. Sorry, I don't know what was going on there and what the delay was. Let me just check the channels and make sure that we've got everything going here. So bear with me 1 second. Make sure that the YouTube stream is going for everybody. Oops. For everybody that's watching on Facebook and for YouTube, if you are seeing the video right now, please feel free to comment down below. I will see all of the chat messages on Restream right here, and we will get this going momentarily. So bear with me, and we'll be back here in about 30 seconds, guys. All right, and we're back. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Think Like an Executive vlog/podcast. I hope that everybody is able to see the stream on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Today, I am really pumped up because this is what everybody always talks about in coaching is, I want to start a team. I want to grow my team. How do I do it? I'm with Vanessa Rosenblum today, who is from she's the owner and president of Pro REA Staffing. So Vanessa, welcome. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is my favorite subject, so excited to dig in.
Staffing and finding the right hire and everything, correct?
Yep.
Awesome. Is there such a thing as too much coffee, though? That's what I want.
Never.
Okay.
Never.
Because I'm really throwing it down today. We're getting this going. For everybody that's out there right now, you can use any chat that you've got and just put up your Q&As. I have a full screen over here that has got all the chat messages from Facebook, Facebook Live, from YouTube. So if you have any questions along the way, we're not going to save them till the end. We're just going to keep this going and take your questions as they roll. I also want to thank you to our sponsor today, which is Restream.io. They have graciously sponsored us for this, and all of the colors and all of the things that you see in the background and the chat messages, the videos, that's all done by Restream.io. Restream.io allows you to stream up to 30 channels at the same time, simultaneously. It's an amazing platform, and best of all, it's free. So if you want these special things down below like that, you got to pay for it, but most of you can get along with the free stuff. So Vanessa, tell us a little bit about your background. I know that you started Pro REA Staffing in 2008, but give us the whole gamut of it. Tell us what you do.
All right. So I started my career working for a real estate business coach while I was in college and then right out of college. And a lot of our clients were struggling to hire and retain talent. So while working for him, I started helping our clients interview candidates and hire. And eventually that became my first recruiting business. Then 2008 hit, the market fell apart, right? Those of us who lived through it have not forgotten. And, retained search, full-time placements just weren't a thing. So I partnered with two gentlemen who own several Keller Williams offices, and we started Pro REA Staffing with the intention of providing part-time, flexible, temporary, experienced real estate assistants to agents in the Los Angeles area. And we did that for a little while until the market came back. And then I went back to doing retained search, full-time direct hire placements. And now we place candidates all across the United States and Canada.
Well, I find it interesting though that you started and you launched your real estate placement services in 2008, because we're in such a parallel, I feel, from 2020 to 2008, that it seems like the worst time to open up and operate and start a business. And to be honest, I mean, I launched Think Like an Executive officially in April of 2020. So I'm right there with you that I think that that is the time. And for me, I obviously had the time, I had the energy, everybody working from home, so I could really dedicate myself to launching my platform the right way. But 2008, again, that was the crash. We were in the height of the real estate crash, and you want to place people with top producing agents, I'm assuming. And why? What was the void you were trying to fill?
Well, the void was people didn't need full-time assistants anymore. And there were a lot of really qualified assistants who didn't have jobs. And so the necessity that came out of that turmoil was people still needed some help. And we had lots of really well-qualified assistants who were willing to be flexible and willing to work for multiple people in order to make an income. And so I think major changes like this create opportunities that didn't exist before. They force you to think differently. Scarcity, actually, being creative, when you take things away, it creates more opportunities for creativity, right? So, we thought differently about how do we help agents continue to grow their business and adapt during this time. And the answer was providing short-term temporary staffing. Now, as a business model, that was not sustainable long-term, because as soon as the market came back, those assistants got full-time jobs. So, one of the things you asked me to think about is what I would have done differently back then. Yeah. And I think I would have pivoted faster. I would have been more willing to pivot and listen to the market as it continued to change. And I had partners, I had commitments, I held on to a model that wasn't working anymore for longer than I would have today.
How fast do you think people, and I know pivot is a hot buzzword these days and stuff, but how fast do you think people have adapted to being in COVID, not going to the office? Because I'll tell you, I was spending 3.5 hours a day driving, and I am so thankful that, from office to office, when managing office to office, and I am so thankful to recapture that much time back in my day, that's why I feel like I'm working actually harder and longer hours than I normally was, because my office is 15 feet away from my kitchen, my living room, everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. How do you think we quickly adapted to this new lifestyle that we're in?
Yeah, I think within 6 months, people had it figured out. I mean, agents are creative and resilient. And I mean, there are always those people who are going to push the limit. They're going to embrace technology. I mean, I remember in Los Angeles, as soon as open houses were no longer a thing, and suddenly savvy agents were doing these virtual open houses, and they figured out how to run them on Facebook, how to capture leads from them. And I mean, very quickly, some people made the adjustment. They were willing to think differently. They were willing to pivot, and they've come out of this really strong. I mean, I know plenty of agents who've had their best year ever. And then I know plenty of other agents who've really struggled. I think another part of this is also being prepared and having savings, right? When I think back to, I mean, I was 26 at the time, so I will give myself a little grace. I didn't have any savings. I was over leveraged. And so it was really difficult for me to make good decisions because I was operating out of fear and scarcity. Mm. This time around, obviously have the luxury of more time and all of that, and more savings, frankly. And so I was able to make different decisions. And I think I saw that with agents as well. So it doesn't help you in the moment, but this will happen again in the future, right? And so this is a good reminder of how we need to prepare our business and ourselves for the next time things go sideways.
Yeah, I mean, this was such an unpredictable event that who knew, right? I mean, we thought the only thing we were preparing for was a real estate market crash, not a COVID-19 earth destroying that. It's wild that we're living in this era and this time. Real quick, it seems like people are having an issue getting into Facebook. I think that this is something with Facebook Live right now that is, they're having some issues over there. They sent me an email this morning. They were working on it. So please, if you are on YouTube and if you have some friends that are, that are trying to sign in and can't get there, I have put up in the chat on YouTube the link to the YouTube video. So make sure you please forward that on to everybody there. I don't know what's going on with Facebook, but please don't blame Restream. They're the best. So let's talk about a little bit about Think Like an Executive, because I know you did an intro and I probably forgot to do my intro, because I know there's a couple of lots of new faces here. And really for me, and it's very similar to what you do, it's about support. And Think Like an Executive for me is really a brainchild that I had 21 years ago when I got into the Los Angeles real estate market. And I found that there was just a big void of support from managers, brokers, and agent to agent. So really, I started Think Like an Executive about 3 years ago. It's a business and real estate coaching platform. And it's really just about holding yourself accountable. It's really about giving support and giving back to the agents, which is, to me, the real estate industry is my last job ever. So, and I've been in it 21 years. So I'm glad I can say that. This is, I'll always be affiliated with real estate. I have such great passion for it. So coaching to me is just the next level and the next step of my career in real estate. And just happy to do it. I like to bring these value add kind of meetings. And I think that these vlogs and these podcasts can't always be about me, and look what I know. There are so many talented people in this industry that have value add. And again, that's why you're here, Vanessa. So thanks for doing this. So we've talked about 2008 to 2020. I want to get right into like agents, not really the psychology, but kind of the mindset of it. We all know, and some of us even watching here, are agents that live in chaos. And can you really bring a buyer's agent, an assistant, a cold caller, if you're an agent that lives in chaos? I mean, I know plenty of agents that they love scrambling, and it's not work to them unless they're working 10 times harder. So talking about living in chaos.
Yeah, so I think this is fascinating. One of the things I love about real estate is that so many different people can be successful in this industry. There's so many different ways to run your business, right? One of the ways is to run it in chaos. And this industry seems to attract a fair number of people who like to operate that way. I think the adrenaline rush of it, the unknown, the sort of that feeling of like just getting it done. And I know $1 million producers who operate that way. And the reality is you can do it for only so long. You might be able to make $1 million, but at some point you're going to burn out. At some point you're going to create such wreckage, because you will hire people if you're making $1 million, and they will leave, and then you'll hire more people and they will leave. And at some point you just burn out. And you don't have to live that way. I think it's a part of it. It's a limiting belief. People believe that they have to be available 24/7. They believe that they have to create bespoke services for every single client. Everything has to be completely unique. The reality is there are other people who are as or very much more successful who don't operate that way. So when you buy into this limiting belief that I always have to be on, I always have to just be like just scraping by, you're setting yourself up for failure. And it's not, you don't have to. Why would you want to live that way? You don't have to.
Some people love it. I'm telling you.
I know.
Yeah, I think that they think they're being more productive by doing more things repetitiously and just over and over and over again. I don't understand the living in chaos thing, because I personally, my goal is always to get everything done and off my plate, like I say, by 10 a.m. every morning. I like having the ability to do whatever I want to do for the rest of the day. And I'm waiting on you, I'm waiting on them, I'm waiting on everybody else to get back to me. And of course, there's things that happen, and you do inspections and whatnot and coaching calls. But boy, I handle my business first thing in the morning, get it off my plate. Let's see what else we got here. So, I think that living in chaos kind of comes down to systems and procedures. And it's amazing to me that more agents don't understand the importance of systems and procedures and having things in place. And this all is going to tie around just really bringing on more staff. And how do I set myself up? And obviously the name of the show today is all about growth for 2021. So how do I set myself up with great systems, great procedures? And before I remember what I was going to say, before we get into that, You and I met, I believe it was at Goodfellow Coaching Mastermind, probably 3 years ago. And there was a guy it still resonates with me, that stated that he worked like 200 days a year, and still that was too much. And I don't know who the guy was, but he was in Canada, and he has a big team of 15, 20 people. And he's like, I'm working 200 days a year, and that's still too much. And I was like, this guy's almost working half a year, and it's still too much. And that's where I want to be. I want to get so, like, have it down pat and systems and procedures, and have a great team behind me that everything's on autopilot and I can just walk away and go take some vacations. But let's talk about systems and procedures.
Yeah, so it's a big subject, but I think the first thing is recognizing that providing excellent service isn't about reinventing the wheel for every client. It's about being predictable and consistent every single time, so that somebody who has an experience with you knows that when they refer someone to you, that person's going to have the same experience.
Sure.
And that means maybe you don't work with everybody. That may be that you have boundaries that you work within. And I think that initial concept is hard for some people. But once you get past that and you realize the freedom that comes from knowing that every time you you have a new listing agreement and it comes into your office, you already know how it's going to be handled, because everybody's agreed on what that's going to look like. Now, it's important to think about the full sales cycle, right? We start with leads, buyers, appointments, all the way through. Every single stage requires its own systems and procedures. And the most important thing is figuring out how you get from point A to point B. That transition, that's where things fall through the cracks, right? So great, you have a new lead, you have an appointment scheduled, but then maybe you forget to tell your assistant, and then you're scrambling to, to prepare the documentation to go on the meeting, right? So a system and a procedure require that you sit down and you think about how do I want this to be done? You document it. Everybody agrees on the way it's going to go, and you think about how things are transitioning through each point of the sales cycle. And then you hold your team accountable, right? So it's great to have a system, but everybody actually has to follow it. And this is a two-way street. So if you're by yourself, and I know this even for myself before I had an assistant,
right,
in your head, you kind of know how things go. You're kind of loosey-goofy. Yeah,
sure,
you have a checklist. That's fine for a while, and then it isn't. And so if you can get into the habit of actually following your systems and allowing yourself to be accountable to the process that you and whoever you're working with has agreed upon, it changes everything. So I mean, it's really that simple. There are also other ways to get this done. So I know people who are at a certain point in their business where they're kind of winging it. Maybe they have staff or a part-time person, and they're like, I just can't slow down to do this. This isn't my thing. I actually refer people to somebody who is a business systems consultant who documents a real estate agent's systems and procedures and creates a training manual online so that they can train everybody who comes into their office so that there's more consistency. So there are resources out there to make this easier for you.
So another slight little interruption here. So I've reposted the YouTube link, and I apologize, everyone. I don't know exactly what's happening, but everybody seems to be coming over from a different link in Facebook, it looks like. So again, I don't actually know what's happening over there, but we'll replay it for you. It'll be on the Team Gallardi Company YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go there and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please comment down below on the YouTube channel. I'll see it. Vanessa will see it. We'll get to it. Systems and procedures is something that I think that is just as simple as even time blocking. And I say this over and over again. I have my haircuts blocked in my calendar. I have everything blocked in my calendar, and it looks like I am incredibly busy, even though some of these things might be send a follow-up email to Vanessa. And I think that's so wildly important. And I guess where I'm leading with this is that agents are so, I don't want to say possessive, but control freaks. I mean, we're control freaks. So how do I, and that's part of the interviewing process, and that's obviously what you help with, but how do I relinquish power? I mean, I know it's a big question, but how am I going to trust you with my business that I've worked 21 years for?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a process, right? And I was thinking about this the other day, and I took some notes so I wouldn't forget. But I think understanding that it's a process and that you don't go from doing it all yourself and everything's done the right way, just the way you want it, to letting it all go. And you shouldn't, that's not it. But people resist delegating for one or more of 4 reasons. So they either believe that nobody else could ever possibly do it as well as they do it. That might ring true for some of you. They like the task. And this, as you grow in your business and you're supposed to focus more on your dollar productive activities, you have to let go of other things. And sometimes you like doing those things. You might really like writing property descriptions or meeting the stager or whatever. And you might have to let go of things you actually like doing in your business because they're not the most dollar productive activities, right? You don't want to slow down to teach or train or explain. And so you'll just do it yourself, which is a short-term fix for a long-term problem. And then finally, you don't trust.
What's the point of hiring somebody?
Right.
Do it yourself.
Or finally, you don't trust them. And that either means you don't have the right person or you haven't taken the time to train them. So when you recognize what your block is, then you can work on it and understand that if you really want to grow your business and if you've invested in hiring somebody to help you do that, you have to let go. And if you've hired talent and you start to micromanage them because you don't trust them to do the things you've hired them to do, you will have a revolving door. Nobody worth hiring wants to be treated that way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
The way you deal with this, one is you do make sure that you have systems in place so that everybody agrees on how things are done. Makes it much easier to delegate. 2, you have a communication feedback loop. It's scary to say, I need you to call this client and handle this issue, and then sit there wondering if it was done. So what we teach our clients to do is to have daily check-ins, and once you really trust that person, maybe it's a weekly team meeting and not daily. And daily end-of-day emails. So this is an email from the admin to the agent that says, hey, this is what you asked me to do today, and here's the status of everything, and here's some other things you need to know. Here are some questions I have as I prepare for tomorrow. This very, very simple communication tool relieves so much stress because the agent knows at the end of the day, I'm going to get a status update and I'm going to be able to respond and say, this is a priority now, this isn't, now do this, blah, blah, blah. It's that simple. Checks
and balances.
It's checks and balances, right? Yeah. And then inspecting what you expect. So if you have a system in place and somebody else is responsible for handling it, from time to time, you need to just sit down with them and go through the checklist and make sure they're actually following it. Because if you don't have eyes on it, if they don't think you care, then they are going to start not caring about it. So
is there a right time to say, now I'm ready to hire somebody? And let's just pick out an executive assistant first off. Is it a number of transactions? Is it a volume count? Is it, I'm in such a mess and still living in chaos that I need somebody else to help me pick up the pieces? How do you determine that you're ready to actually hire somebody?
Gosh, that's a magic question, right? Because it's different for everybody.
Sure.
It depends on what your budget is. It depends on your family situation. You might be willing to give up more income in order to have more balance in your life. Or you might be in a situation where you're able to push it a little bit longer. I would say the first thing you need to let go of is transaction coordination. That's an easy thing to delegate. And I think, again, you can do this in baby steps. So transaction coordination, easy first thing to delegate. That frees up your time. The second thing is
not somebody that you have to hire. That's somebody that you just pay outside.
Yes. Okay. So we're talking about, instead of going from 0 to a full-time hire, which is a major commitment, you can take it in steps. So transaction coordinator, your marketing, you can hire somebody who probably does a better job at marketing than you, even if you think you're really good at marketing, for not a lot of money to work on a project basis. This is great if you've never hired anybody before. These little hires help you learn some of the skills you're going to need to be an effective boss, right? You have to delegate. You have to hold people accountable. You have to communicate with them what you like and what you don't like. You have to give feedback. And so these are easy things to get off your plate that are not dollar productive activities for you, that free you up to do more of the thing you need to do. And at some point, you'll decide that it's time to invest in a full-time person. But it's a really personal decision. I would say, though, as a caveat, you should not be spending more than 20% of your net commission income on salaries. So it's sort of a rule of thumb. Now, Keller Williams will say 10%. I'd say in California, that is unrealistic.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And you should have at least 3 months of that person's salary put away in savings before you hire. So,
say that again. So I need 20% of my net.
Yeah, don't spend more than 20% of your net commission income on salaries.
Okay.
And make sure that you have saved at least 3 months worth of that person's salary aside, so that you're not struggling to pay them, or you're not panicked. It's going to take a little time to get somebody revved up, but I can tell you, if you hire the right person and you leverage them correctly, you leverage your time correctly, one hire can help you double your business in 1 to 2 years. And it's absolutely true. I've seen it time and time again. It's why I started my first recruiting business, because I was so blown away at how powerful this one hire could be in transforming somebody's business. I mean, it changes everything when you hire the right person and you do your new job, which is something I wanted to talk about. So when you hire somebody, we always think about, okay, what is this person supposed to do? What is their job description? What do I want them to do? And that's important. But the other part is, now what is your new job description? Because your job has now changed. You haven't just offloaded things. You've freed up time to do more of the things that you're supposed to be doing. And also now you have some management responsibilities. And so, that's a process you need to think about and be prepared for, and embrace the things that you're supposed to be doing so that you get the most bang for your buck out of the person you hired.
Yeah, I'm very big on, number one, small and achievable goals. And I love the fact that you say hire a transaction coordinator first, because I don't think people actually think of that as an employee or a hire, but delegating paperwork. And most agents hate doing paperwork, so that's a very easy hire. And most offices have a very good transaction coordinator. I know that with Sync Brokerage, they've got the one girl there, she's got 40 or 50 deals going at the same time, and she handles it. I mean, talk about really laser focused, but that's a great first hire. And then the marketing, me personally, I love doing marketing myself, but you're right. You need to spend your time on money-making activities, and me creating flyers is not a money-making activity. Me writing the descriptions for a property, single family residence, beautiful street, all these things, somebody else needs to be doing that. Is Fiverr hands down the best resource to help with creating a nice little marketing thing, or are there better things out there and spend a little more money and get better quality?
I prefer Upwork. I've had better success with Upwork. But either one, I feel, I would prefer Upwork for you're looking for an ongoing relationship with somebody who can consistently handle certain tasks for you. And Upwork has an incredible group of marketing people on there.
Yeah, they're very high-end freelancers, right?
Yeah, you can, and they're all around the world. So if you want a US-based, somebody who's worked at a big agency, you'll pay for it, but it's still cheaper than hiring a full-time marketing manager for $80,000 a year. And you can get, a lot of that work done for you for not a lot of money.
So I'm a pretty good producing agent. We'll say 25 million a year. I did a handful of deals, 15, 20 deals last year. I want to bring on a buyer's agent. I need a buyer's agent. Come on.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Yes, it's cool, man. I have a team. I'm the Team Gallardi company. I need a buyer's agent.
No, because what you just did? You just demoted yourself to assistant.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes, because if you don't have an assistant, you are one. We've all heard that. If you hire a buyer's agent, now you're an assistant to somebody else. Look, the first hire you need to make is an executive assistant. There is no way around it. You cannot shortcut that. Your assistant is the person who's going to document how you do things, your standards of service. They're going to streamline things. They're going to leverage you. Why would you give away 50% of your commission to somebody who is maybe newer in the business, not as good at closing a deal as you are, instead of hiring an assistant to free you up to do more of the thing that you're really good at, which is closing sales? You should not hire a buyer's agent until you absolutely cannot handle the business you have coming in with the administrative team you've built. Period. I could go on and on. Buyer's agents can be really valuable, but they also they're not just an appendage. They're just not this accoutrement that you get to say, now you're a team. That person is expecting things from you.
Sure.
They're expecting leads, coaching, admin support, problem solving, psychology. I mean, like, you're their person. And so either you're at the point where you want to give that and create leverage that way, or you just need to hire a really good assistant and you can make way more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as an agent perspective, what we all look at is, well, if I bring on a buyer's agent, it costs me $0 and I get 50% of theirs. And that's not the reality of it. I had 9 mentees when I was at Keller Williams, Beverly Hills. They were like, Jason, you do such a great job with the other agents and you're so focused and top 50 in sales. Here's some mentees. And they kept loading them up on me. My business went downhill because I spent so much time, effort, and energy, not money-making activities, but trying to build them to get them up to my speed. And I netted $0 from them. And so I realized very quickly, first of all, the mentor-mentee thing is a broken system. Don't get me started on that. But yeah, absolutely. You have to hire an executive assistant. And I want to talk about the money thing again a little bit later. But what about okay, so we're doing 10, 15 deals this year or last year, 2020. What about bringing on somebody that's a cold caller before the executive assistant?
No. So when I hear that, I hear somebody who says, I want to abdicate the most important responsibility I have as a realtor. That is, your ability to generate business is the skill that got you where you are now. And it's the skill that you're going to have to keep using for a long time until you've leveraged yourself out of your business. Nobody is going to sell you and your services better than you.
Yeah.
They aren't. And here's the thing about inside sales agents. We used to place them. It was one of the roles that we would fill, and we stopped because the turnover in that role is atrocious.
Yeah.
First of all, the way it's set up with a very low base and high commission makes business sense. But the reality is it takes so long for somebody to start making money. The kind of person who would actually be good at that job can't afford to stick around long enough. A good salesperson needs to be making $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year.
Sure.
If you're paying them $15 an hour, $20 an hour, and 10% on the back end, it's going to take them 6 months or more to make what they need to make. They can't afford to do that. The model doesn't work. So there are different ways to structure it so that you can bring somebody on. It's a great role for either somebody who's really new in the business and you're going to train them up into a buyer's agent role, or there's somebody at the end of their career who is a great agent who isn't as mobile and is just great on the phone. So there is a place for that role, but
Sure.
That is somebody you hire after you have a great buyer's agent training program. You already have accountability in place. You have an admin team, and you have a lead source that's generating a lot of leads that need to be pre-qualified. That is not your first or second hire.
I can tell that there are a lot of agents watching this and that will rewatch this. They're just like, but no, I want a buyer's agent.
I know.
They still want the buyer's agent. They still want the glam and the glitz of having it. I'm telling you, this is why I ask this question, everybody, is because you're going to make more money by spending money. You've heard the rule of that rule before. Go out and hire an executive assistant. And if you're making $250,000 a year, basically, rule of the math is almost $50,000 that you're going to pay for an executive assistant. Now, do I incentivize an executive assistant with bonuses, or do I just say, hey, it's $50,000 a year, you work 40 hours a week, here's the math? Do I incentivize them?
Yeah, you do incentivize them. So I have a few rules of thumb, and I will share. We put out a salary guide every year. And this year, we just launched the new one. So you can get really detailed salary data and how to structure bonuses. I have it's a book. But here's the bottom line. About 95% of real estate assistants get some kind of incentive or bonus. My recommendation is that no more than 30% of their total compensation should come from bonuses. So 70% base, 30%, and that's the max, okay? The reason for this is assistants are built differently. They don't have the same risk versus reward tendencies that agents do. They're not entrepreneurs. they need stability. And frankly, they make way less money than you and they have to pay rent. So if you have them on a low base and a really big bonus structure, chances are when your business will inevitably ebb and flow, they're going to get nervous and they're going to leave. Also, you don't want your assistant to be calculating how much money you're making versus them. And when you have them on a big bonus structure, they start thinking more like an agent. And you want them to provide the same level of service, level of care with every single client and be concerned about running your office, not about your sales, right? So I know it can be scary when you're thinking, like in Los Angeles, for example, it is very difficult to get a good assistant, licensed or not, for less than about $65,000 base salary. And there are going to be bonuses on top of that. Look, It's not cheap. Yes. Now, we now live in the age of everybody's realized that nobody has to actually be sitting next to them to serve them. So there are virtual assistants in the Philippines who could do a very good job for not a lot of money. Or if you're in LA, you can hire a great real estate assistant who lives out in the Inland Empire or in Texas or Florida. They don't have to be in Beverly Hills sitting next to you. You don't have to pay that kind of rent for office space for this person. And having a virtual assistant doesn't work for everybody. But it's a really, truly viable option. And, as this year has shown, whole teams can be run virtually and they could still be very successful. So if that number scares you and you're not ready to deal with having, a $75,000 payroll, and frankly, for your first hire, I think for a lot of people, that's a big chunk to swallow.
Sure.
Think about hiring a virtual assistant who lives in Texas or Alabama or, someplace less expensive.
Yeah. So, and that's something that your company will actually assist with to try and find a virtual assistant, and or if you have the $75K a year, to go find somebody locally, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we place both direct hire candidates. So whether they live next door or on the other side of the country, it doesn't matter to us, but we can help you find the right person.
So that kind of leads me into the interview process then. What are some of the basic questions and things I need to be looking for if I'm going to hire an executive assistant? Do I just get along with them and they tell me that their resume is great and that they worked for Jason Gallardi over at Sync Brokerage before for 2 years and I should just hire them?
They're cute. They can fog a mirror. Done, right?
There you go. Can they hold the camera and post to Instagram? Great, you're hired.
Yeah, exactly. So a few years ago, we started doing postmortems basically on any position that didn't work out. And we started really listening to the stories candidates and employers were came to us about why their last positions didn't work out. We started categorizing the reasons positions weren't working out. And what it really comes down to is this: when two well-meaning, healthy individuals, so we're not talking about the agent who throws things at their assistant or the admin that has, serious depression. We're talking about normal, healthy, well-meaning people who try to make it work and it falls apart. Like what happened? The reason it doesn't work out can fall into one or more of three categories. Either it wasn't a job fit, meaning the person didn't have the skills and experience or the logistics of the job. So their expectations about hours didn't align with the agent's expectation of how many hours this job was, or the behavioral style. Like they were really extroverted and they were sitting alone in a dark office all by themselves and they felt lonely, right? So that's job fit. Next is culture fit. Culture fit is really about values. So if we're going to work successfully together, we have to agree on some core values about how we operate. And then finally, there's goal fit. In order for a job to work for a candidate, the job has to fulfill their personal, professional, and financial goals, right? It has to be in alignment with what they want to do. And then finally, they need to be the right kind of talent for that position. So we call this JCG plus T: job fit, culture fit, goal fit plus talent. You have to understand.
I'm trying to memorize that, but I wrote it down.
Yeah, I know. It's not the best acronym.
JCG plus T. I love it.
Yeah. So it's a long-winded answer to say you have to understand what JCG plus T really looks like for you in this position before you start searching. Because if you don't have a really good roadmap for who is going to be the right fit for this role in all of those categories, You're going to find the shiny person who says all the right things, and you're just going to say, done, let's go. Yeah. So the first step is really being clear about who and what you need. The next step is going through a systematic interview process and not cutting corners. And this is where agents start to squirm because they just want it done fast, right? This is not fun. And I agree, like it's not fun. Reading resumes, interviewing people who aren't a fit, it's not fun. That's why I have a job. That's why people pay me, because they don't want to do this, and that's fine. So, but the first step is a phone interview, short and sweet, 15 minutes, have a set list of 10 questions. These are your disqualifiers: location, level of experience, license, and then also listening to their energy, their tone, their communication style, right? You can feel a lot about somebody in about 15 minutes. So short and sweet. Next step is a chronological interview. And today, maybe you do this over Zoom. Someday, hopefully, again, we'll do these in person. But a chronological interview is when you sit down with somebody's resume, you start at the bottom and you go through their career history and you ask 5 questions about each job. The first one is, why did you pick that job? So what was their motivation? What was it about that job that attracted them, right? What were you hired to do? Mm-hmm. So what was the point of the job? What did you accomplish? And this is interesting. Some people will show a pattern where they are hired to do one thing, but the thing that they accomplished has nothing to do with the thing they were hired for. For example, I've interviewed several transaction coordinators who were hired to be a TC, but the thing they accomplished was implementing a social media marketing program over and over again, right? Social marketing, but you were hired to be a TC. So there's a misalignment there, right? Next is, what challenges did you face? This is interesting. People who are talented talk about challenge as an opportunity, right? They talk about things that they accomplished, things they overcame. Non-talent talks about things that happened to them. So they might say, the most challenging thing about that job was my coworkers were really slow, or my boss was mean, or they'll talk about the things that happened to them versus
like a victim.
Victim speak, exactly. And then finally, why did you leave? Now, everybody has had a bad job or two, but you're listening to patterns, and that's why you go through this process each job. And you'll hear somebody say, oh, my boss left and I followed them, and then a recruiter called me, and then I saw this amazing opportunity and I couldn't pass it up. That's a talented person who is pulled forward in their career versus the person who was laid off, didn't like their boss, we both decided it wasn't a good fit. Like, you hear those patterns. So this interview is all about listening for patterns and identifying whether this person is talented and whether they are making strategic and cognizant decisions about their career path, because you don't want to be the job they defaulted into, right? You want to be the job that is the right fit for them at this point in their career, and they're really excited about this job. Okay, so that's the chronological interview that lasts about 45 minutes. The next is...
sorry, let me ask you real quick though, is how, because now I'm conflicted because, and I hate to pick on millennials, but if you've ever seen a millennial's resume, it's 3 months here, 8 months there, 6 months there. I don't know how they're ever getting hired anywhere else, because they're usually these tech companies, and it's usually just kind of like, oh, I want the next quick thing. I'm bored over here, and it's the instant gratification. But then I'm hearing that if somebody tells me that they've been pulled ahead and it was a better opportunity, or my boss left, that I don't know. There is a generational thing here, right? So my grandparents, or even my parents, really stayed in jobs for a very long time. There was this expectation of stability and longevity that does not exist anymore on both sides, right? Companies, there's no guarantee when you get hired that they're going to want to keep you in 3 months, right? Sure.
And vice versa. People change jobs a lot more. So you have to take it with a bit of a grain of salt, and you are going to check references. So you're going to verify why somebody left, right? But I don't take, 3 months, 6 months, 6 months, 3 months, that's a red flag.
Okay.
But if it's a year and a half, and they're young, that's pretty normal. And it's worth exploring why they made those changes and what would keep them, right? So many of these entry-level jobs have a ceiling in some companies. There's nowhere else to go. It's time for them to move on. Now, you have to understand what their personal, professional, and financial goals are, and whether or not you are going to be able to fulfill those. And if you do, and you're a great boss, then maybe you're the company they finally stay with for 10 years.
Sure.
Here's another interesting thing though. If somebody has stayed at a job for a very long time, let's say somebody's coming off a 10-year position with a company, I can almost guarantee that they will job hop for the next 2 or 3 years before they settle into another job. Somebody who's very used to doing things the way one company does them often has a hard time landing in another long-term position.
Interesting.
Yeah. So if you see somebody who had a long tenure and then some jumps and then another tenure, that's very normal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to ask something about the job placement and stuff. In further questions in the references thing, I got to be honest, I don't know if I've ever called references. Is that just common?
Shame on you.
I know.
It's common, but it's
like
not
the person
good.
I hire.
I know. Look, committing to following a process when you hire is not easy or fun.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I wish it was, but it isn't. But you will find out things during those reference checks that can save you from a bad hire, or you might find out things that help you train and onboard and support that person. There's value in understanding how they worked with their last boss and having a real conversation about how can I support this person and how did you train them? What were some of the challenges you had? What are they good at? What are they not? So that you have reasonable expectations and you're able to work with this person. It's not just about finding out the dirt.
Sure.
Although you do want to make sure you're not caught by surprise, that they were caught drinking on the job in their last job or something, right? But it's really also about verifying what you think you know about somebody and learning how to work successfully with them. So references are really important.
When I hire somebody, do I want an executive assistant, let's just say, do I want an executive assistant with a license and who is motivated to become an agent themselves? Do I want them goal-oriented for that?
Usually no, but it's really a personal decision, right?
Okay.
So most of my clients don't want to hire somebody who wants to become a sales agent. They want the lifer admin. And I would say it's hard for anybody to look ahead more than 2 to 3 years in their life. If somebody tells you that, yeah, maybe in 5 years I'd like to become an agent, I take that with a giant grain of salt.
Okay.
If you hire somebody who is just licensed and is trying to become a real estate agent, that is traditionally a very bad hire. Because if they're going to be a good salesperson, they are not going to be a good assistant. And I've had more than one client call me and say, okay, fine, I'm ready for you to help me. My assistant is out showing property to my buyers and I'm dealing with an escrow that is exploding. I don't know why I'm stuck in the office while my admin is building relationship with my clients. Well, yeah, that's happening because your admin wants to build relationships with clients and doesn't really want to deal with those escrows.
Yeah.
You hired the wrong person.
Okay. What other guys, we have the chats open on YouTube. So if you're on YouTube, please feel free to put something in the comments down below on the channel. I see them live right now for any other questions. Vanessa, what else do you have? I mean, I think that I'm glad we just point blank said you got to hire an executive assistant. Spending a little money is going to make you hopefully 2 to 3 times that amount of money in the next year or so. Systems and procedures, you've got to have systems and procedures. You can't be a hot mess when you're trying to train, recruit, and educate somebody of how you want your business run. Over at Pro REA Staffing, what's Hire Lab? Because I have that down here also. Yeah, so what we did earlier last year is separate our brand into Pro REA Staffing is content for job seekers. Hire Lab is a huge body of resources for agents who want to hire, train, and develop their team. So it's a collaboration of my resources. So we have a course that will teach you how to hire. It'll give you all the tools, resources, checklists, everything you need to do it on your own. We have our candidate screening services, which are just a la carte recruiting. So if you want us to write your job ad and review the resumes and just give you the top 10%, we can do that. If you want us to handle the whole search for you and guarantee the placement, we can do that too. So all of that's there. And then I partner with another woman named Kathleen Metcalf, who has really incredible training
and development resources for real estate agents and their assistants. And so, training goes hand in hand with hiring. You can hire the right person, and then if you dump and run, they're not going to be successful. And so we wanted to create a collaboration of resources to help agents be successful hiring and developing their team.
I don't know if you cover this. Is there a guarantee with hiring you to hire somebody for me if the person just up and bails in 2 weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. So under our retained search, we have a guarantee period. And it's either 30 or 90 days, depending on the package you choose. But yes.
Do you discuss pricing openly, or is that on your website, or I got to call you?
Yeah, so for retained search, pricing starts at $9,000. It's split into 3 payments. So it's a retainer, a fee upon hire, a fee at the end of the successful guarantee period. And that includes you getting pre-screened candidates. You get a video interview of the candidate, their skill assessment, their DISC behavioral assessment, which we didn't get a chance to talk about how important it is to use the DISC and validate it in the interview process. But we give you all of that.
Is it really important?
It is important. It's really important.
Give me the D and the I and the S and the K. So it's a K, right?
So,
no, it's a C.
It's a C, yes. No, it's okay.
How long it's been?
Driver, yeah. So driver, influencer, stability, and conformity. And, there's no magic formula, but using the DISC and going through it with a candidate and understanding how they make decisions, their fears, their motivations is a really great way to understand whether you and this person are going to jive well together. And that's part of our process. And we coach our clients through having this conversation with the hires that they're interested in so that they can start to build that relationship and really understand how this person is going to respond under stress and respond to different situations that they'll face when working together.
So if I'm looking for an executive assistant, is it the I and the C or the I and the S that I'm looking for the most part, or is it again just case by case?
Right. So traditionally, a great assistant has SC in their profile, and their I is usually not too high. It might be above the line, but it's not their leading indicator. Now, a director of operations or someone who works for a really intense agent might need to have more D in their profile. They might need to have more driver instinct in order to thrive in that team. So we always look at the dynamics to figure out what DISC profile is going to be the best fit. But traditionally, you're looking for somebody with high S and C. They're stable. They like to do things the right way every single time. They're a supportive person.
So we've got a comment from Winston here. And this is why I love Restream. This is directly from the chat from YouTube right to our page right here. So the first hire is an executive assistant. What would be the next 3 hires as business is booming?
It's a great question. It depends on your market and your volume, but I would say bringing transaction coordination in-house and or your marketing in-house and moving your executive assistant into an operations manager role. You might have 2 admins before you hire that buyer's agent. It might be 3. Your situation, I can consult with people on what probably will make sense depending on where they are in the country and things like that. But again, I would hold off hiring buyer's agents until that is like a really legit necessary option for you. And you're prepared to do the work of coaching, mentoring, and bringing these people up so that they do produce income for you.
Guys, we're about to wrap it up here in just 2 minutes or so. So if you have any more questions here, I mean, we've got almost an hour out of Vanessa today. I'm sure she has a ton of stuff going on. I'm deeply appreciative of your time today, Vanessa. We will put up your links right here. Here is your email, Vanessa Rosenblum, email at Vanessa@Pro REA Staffing. Is that correct, right?
That's right.
Okay, I want to make sure. So make sure you guys go there and go to proreastaffing.com for all of your staffing and hiring needs. Vanessa, you said you have 3 different programs to where you can assist and do job placement, right?
Yes, exactly. So just go to hire-lab.com. So hire-lab.com. And you can see all of our, what we think you. Also, if you go to our resources tab at the top, we have the salary guide. You can download that. We have an interview guide that gives you a lot of great questions and a guideline on how to do that. We have a free 30-minute mini masterclass on how to navigate the interview process following our model. So you can take that. And then if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get free access to our DISC mini masterclass, which will teach you how to actually use the DISC profile correctly in your interview process. And if you're using the DISC, I'd say about 75 or 80% of people don't actually use it to the best of its ability. So you can check that out.
It's a very robust and in-depth. I've taken it, I think, twice in my career, and it's 50 pages long or something like that. I mean, it's crazy. It's wildly in-depth, but I do know some agents that do utilize that tool. Do I have to pay to actually have somebody do a DISC profile?
So there are a lot of different discs out there, and they're not all created equal. So some are free. Tony Robbins' website gives you one for free. Those are not that accurate. We've tested thousands of people and used different versions. We use one called People Keys. We sell it on our website at a discount for like $25 a pop. We've been using it for years now. We've just found that it's the most accurate. So you get what you pay for. $25.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's nothing.
Not a big deal. No.
What was it called?
It's called People Keys.
Keys. Okay.
People Keys, yeah. So I say Winston is asking, how long does it take to hire? So right now, the average time for a retained search is about 6 weeks, start to finish. That's our average. It's happening faster sometimes, and sometimes it takes a bit longer.
Yeah, but you're getting somebody that's completely vetted, and exactly, hopefully exactly what you're getting with that. And listen, this is about money-making activities. Is your time, effort, and energy worth 6 weeks of interviewing, DISC profiles, paying the $25? I'm sure that it comes with
it comes with retained search
with the fees and all that. So don't spend the time to go out and recruit. Go hire Vanessa and her team over there at Hire Lab and Pro REA Staffing. Let them do it for you. These are the professionals. This is why she's here. I think absolutely this is the way to grow your team in 2021. I love the fact that we should have 2 executive assistants before we even think about a buyer's agent, hopefully. Get a transaction coordinator. What a small and achievable goal that we're all doing and don't even realize it. So I absolutely love it. Vanessa, thank you so much.
Thanks. It was really great to chat with you.
Good seeing you again. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will see you soon. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Team Gallardi Company. Thank you so much, everybody.